Hi Newfield artists. So today we're going to make our own stamps out of toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls that you might have laying around your home. And if you need to wait until you can gather up a couple of these and save this lesson for another day when you have them ready, then that is totally fine. But we are going to kind of play around with some different shapes. We can use keep it as is and just use the circle, or we can form them into other shapes and actually use scissors to cut some different things and use them as stamps on our paper. So I have a few different color paints here. I have a little paper plate to kind of use as my palette. So you can kind of get yourself set up and I will show you how to get started. All right, so we're gonna try this out, and I want to make this, transform this tube, this circular form, into a triangle. So, or a triangular shape that I'm going to use as a stamp. So I'm really just going to kind of squeeze and pinch until I can start to see my three-sided shape coming through. So I'm just pinching, and I have 3 points here. And just kind of work it with your hands until you have the shape that you want it to be. So I'm getting that triangular shape coming through right there. It looks pretty good to me. All right, and of course you can, depending on how many you have to work with, how many of these rolls, you could cut it down. It doesn't have to be this long. So maybe the next one I'll work on that. I'll just cut it down a little bit so that I can make more than just one. Maybe on this one, I will make this into a square. So I'm just pinching, and I want this to have 4 points, 4 angles, 4 sides instead of 3. So it's a good way to practice your shapes too. And really just working on using our hands as our tools today, for at least for the first part of this. Okay, so I have my square shape here. I've got my triangle. I am going to leave this one, I think, as my circle. And I might try a heart shape here. So if you think about the heart shape, we have 1 point. So I'm just squeezing that down there, and then I'm pressing the top of that to come down, and I have 2 curves at the top. So I'm starting to see that heart shape come through, and we're really just molding with your hands, pinch. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that heart shape there, so I'm going to put that aside with some of my other shapes. And another thing you could do is use your scissors to cut up the tube a little bit, and then you could make these little tabs, and that can be part of your stamp, and it can be in the shape of a flower if you'd like. So I'm just going to actually do that on the other side to show you. You can just cut some slits up from the bottom. And I'm trying to make them about the same length, these cuts. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just kind of using my best judgment there. And then what I'm going to do is just fold them out, just like this. And this is a nice way, you probably remember from being in class, is a good way to attach, especially when we were doing Creation Station and we were with Mrs. Noe, and this is a great way to attach onto a flat surface, so kind of like that. But we're using it as a stamp today, so you can keep it like this, and if you wanted to just round off those corners, you can kind of just curve that off with your scissor, and you end up with something like this. Just flatten it out, and you have something like that. So you can do it that way, and you can experiment. You can play around with having those cuts be a little closer together. Maybe they'll go up a little bit higher, so you'd have a different kind of effect. Maybe this would be more like a little firework on your paper, and you would use it as a stamp. So I'm just going around, opening it up. Ooh, kind of looks like a tutu. Okay, so I have that ready. I have this guy ready, and I have my few shapes. And I'm going to get ready. But I'm actually just going to use my brush here to spread out the paint a little bit more so that I have a nice surface of the paint to kind of dip my stamps into. So I'm going to go into a new color, so I'm just going to wash my brush off. So here and here, I just overlapped a little bit, and I've made a couple of new shapes right in there. And once it's dry too, if you wanted to go into certain areas and different spaces and actually paint and make them different colors, you can go ahead and do that, or you can just stick with the stamping, and it really is a lot of fun. For you. Yeah. Let's see. So I had a lot of fun making my own stamps and creating art with them. And there's a lot of different variations of how you can do it, so you can keep it pretty simple. I just used my triangular stamp here, just kind of used up my whole paper. I used one color here, so that's a pretty simple way to do it. You could always go back in with some paint or even markers or anything you have and color in or around. So you can keep it simple like that. You can add on different stamps. So I used a couple different shapes here with two of my stamps. I used a couple different colors. I have a lot of overlapping happening in here, so it picks up a little more interest, shows a little bit more space. You do something like that. You can also be a little more precise and create a specific pattern with your shape. So I have circle, heart. I went in after and I just added in, filled in a little bit more with some orange and pink, added some lines. So it almost looks like it could be wallpaper or wrapping paper. So I have a nice pattern there. It repeats the same way. And then with the others that I made that kind of look like a flower or a firework, I did a little color mixing with those, and I ended up with this. Almost looks like a tie-dye print. I really like how that came out. Kind of reminds me of the 4th of July with the red and the blue. Kind of looks like fireworks. And then I had here with this stamp, I worked in some warm colors all around the page, and then at the end I added in some yellow dots, sort of like for the centers of the flowers. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Have fun with it. We're making our own stamps. You could keep it simple and just stick with the circle, or you could like I showed you, you can kind of pinch the edges, get your own shapes worked in there, and have a lot of fun. So be sure to take pictures and post them on the stream.